So what's going on with the real estate market? Well, we're seeing it slow in other places. I've talked to people who said over in Arizona, they're thinking of dropping the price on their house because their traffic to their homes is shrinking dramatically. These are home renovator guys. A friend of mine works in my brokerage. He moved to Arizona. He's got 2 homes left. It's slowing down. I'm hearing my wife mention, we live in San Diego. She was like, did you see all the homes on the market? We haven't seen this in years. So there's a lot of signs out. And we are seeing, I'm talking to people, I see our listings, we're seeing a lot less interest right now. So what's going on, and what's a telltale sign? What can happen? Well, let's do a little background. Right now, back in the fall of last year, you could get mortgages under 3%. We refinanced to a 15-year loan at 2.75, so 2.75% back in the fall. That's real. You had to work hard to get them down that low because I always like to bump them up 25, quarter point, maybe even a half point. But those numbers were real for some people. And here we are at 5.25%. Now, it's Thursday, the 26th. The stock market was up today. The bond market was down. The 30-year and the 10-year seem to have some influence on this. This seems to be, it lags a little bit. But I do know people were quoted at 6% last week when this was still at 5.3. So, let's say 5.5 might be where most people could get a mortgage in California right now. So, what does that mean to the buyer pool? Like, why has the market slowed down? Well, I'm going to pull this up and show you that at 5.5%, a person can get a $740,000 mortgage if they qualify to spend $4,200 a month on the mortgage. So, in other words, when they look at principal, interest, taxes, and amortization, the pity payments, principal, interest, taxes, and wow, now you just. So, should you be worried about the real estate market? Should you be selling? If you're selling, what should you make sure you write into your real estate listing contract with your agent and make it non-negotiable? If they're not willing to do that, get another realtor. I'll cover that last. First, we'll do a background. Here's the mortgage situation. This is why the market seems to be slowing down everywhere. My wife noticed there's a lot more real estate signs for sale in California, in San Diego right now. I have people who work in my office that went to Arizona to flip homes and renovate. He told me that he's down to 2 homes. The traffic's slowing down, and he's thinking about driving the prices. Other people are starting to drop their prices. So it's happening. Talking heads on Bloomberg and CNBC. Well, certainly Bloomberg, I'm pretty sure CNBC, have been talking about the mortgage, real estate market slowing down dramatically. And here's good reason. Other than people losing their down payments in the stock market, I know that someone was telling me how they got out of the QQQs and they got back in a month ago, and they're getting smushed right now. And that was, there's some people who lose their payments in the stock market. Retirement accounts go down. People are less comfortable about taking their money out for their down payment on their home. So that's one component of the mortgage. The other thing is what people qualify for, and that's what we're going to cover right here very quickly. So in the fall, you could get mortgages for under 3% and under. We, my wife and I, refinanced to a 2.75% 15-year back then. It could be done. It wasn't easy. And normally, like when you see these published rates, at least in California, in my experience, people usually pay, they're usually paying, quarter point, half a point more. In fact, although this doesn't show 6%, last week someone I know got quoted at 6% on a 30-year mortgage. Now, why is that? I didn't realize that this was so dramatic till I heard someone on Bloomberg say, well, people that could qualify for a $240,000 home 3 months ago, I think he said, they're now only going to be able to qualify for a $180,000 home. And then that made me do the check to see if that's true. So let's do, well, I already did this. I pulled up this calculator. So we're going to do it the reverse. So right now at 5.5%, which I think is a fair number for a mortgage that size, you might have to pay more. So for a $740,000 loan, you'd have a $4,200 a month payment. And many people do shop. There's a saying in California, people are buying mortgage payments, not the price of the home. They first find out what they can qualify for, what they have to deposit for. That's where they get the number that they can buy, and then they look for the best home they can for that price. A lot of people do that. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And that's what real estate agents have been telling people to do for years, so it's not surprising. So remember, $740,000, about $4,200 a month. And the reason I picked that number is because I went the other way from $1 million right before I started this video. So at 3% on $1 million, whoops, that was 3% on $1 million, it's $4,200. So what is now the same person making the same money, so their pity payments, their principal, taxes, and insurance payments, what a lender would qualify them for. So someone qualified for $1 million loan back in the fall, now only qualifies for a $740,000 loan at 5.5%, which is dramatic. That's 25% lower mortgage buying power, really, right? That right there, at every level, there's going to be less competition for homes because some of the people have been knocked out of that level dramatically by the cost of mortgage rates. So now, what do? Do you sell? Should you sell? Well, I can tell you stories. I can tell you that I remember, because I was in Florida. We lived in Carlsbad, sold our house. It had doubled in a short period of time. Went to Florida to be real estate investors. We picked up about 4 properties. They were doing great. I was concerned when I had a few on the market and they weren't selling. It was just like now what I heard from Arizona. Can't say I'm seeing it yet in San Diego, but it could have happened in the last week or two. Oddly, the listing I have right now got a couple inquiries last week, so I'm like, well, it's not so bad, right? But I have a limited data set. I wouldn't be surprised if the market's collapsing. No, not strong word. If it's softening right now in San Diego, and we'll know by looking at the data next week. I want to see all of May's data compared to April. Well, I lost my train of thought, but the point is my wife's seen a lot of, she mentioned to me, she's seen a lot of for sale signs go on the market. She said she hasn't seen that many in a long time. Anecdotally, I think it might be slowing down. And we know there's less competition. So what should you do? I know where so right around this time, I didn't do videos back then as often. You can go back on YouTube actually and see my 10-year ago videos when I was talking about. Well, I did hundreds of short sales, and California Association of Realtors, I trained realtors in short sales and multiple offer negotiations back then, and I got tremendous business off of YouTube 10 years ago. So you can see those videos. But this email went out right before those videos, and I said to people, hey, I think I've seen this before. If you've got multiple properties, and why not sell a couple? Why not lighten up a little bit? Be ready, because maybe you'll have an opportunity to pick one up much lower in a year or two. And so that was intended for investors. But one of the people on my list called me up. He was an engineer. He said, look, my wife and I are probably getting divorced. We're going through problems right now. We're going to wait to sell our house later, but we're going to sell it right now. Because of your letter. You made a convincing case about houses being on the market longer, foot traffic going slower, and when I mentioned a few other things at the time, and he was like, let's sell it. He got the top tick. I think he got full price for his property. A month later, in Florida, we got slaughtered. I had 4 properties. They probably had close to $1 million in equity in them, and on our last property, the one we were living in, I had to bring $70,000 to the closing table so I could leave Florida, come back here where I was useful, because I'm a lawyer and a realtor out here, and there are anti-deficiency statutes, and I could really help people. And I actually loved helping people. I felt bad. I had people in my office crying and fighting and everything else, but at least I could give them good advice. And then a lot of times they came back later. It was a process, but at least I was able to tell most people, okay, you're not going to get hammered for taxes because it's a purchase money loan. The bank can't come after you from the deficiency if you do it the right way. You don't sign stupid paperwork. You should have me or another lawyer look at it to make sure, because if you do a short sale early on, people were getting deficiency notices, and I was like, you got to avoid those because you can always walk away and take the foreclosure. So I really felt great about the counseling. So there is still, I wouldn't get too worried. I guess what I'm saying is that I wouldn't get too worried yet. But right now, there's multiple things to think about. One, we'll have other videos about selecting an agent who can actually negotiate multiple offers in a soft market properly. Believe me, 99% of the agents are trained incorrectly. That's why the California Association of Realtors trained me. There were 300, 400 realtors in the room, and they were stunned at the time that I told them what they're doing was wrong, and they understood. And we can get into that, but here, this is the most important thing right now. In terms of, you want to select a good agent who's going to be flexible. Now, here are the things that you need. If you've recently bought a home and you don't have that much equity, you might be in a position where you're like, I don't want to, if I pay 5%, okay, I can pay my agent if we get this fair market value price. But what if prices are dropping 5 or 10%? Are you then going to have the money to pay your realtor fees? And you don't want to get stuck in this contract. Like you might say, well, I'll work with a realtor who'll do it for 1%, or I'll just sell the home to the buyer. I can't pay you 5% because that's going to put me upside down. And you can't jam me on this contract into being upside down for 6 months when I'm trying to get out and move to my new job or whatever. So the most important thing in a market that could change, I don't know if it's going up or down. If I did, I would be long or short bonds for all my retirement account. I don't know because I know the Fed's in control. I'm not, and I can guess, but I wouldn't guess. And so I don't want to guess with your property either, but I want to give you flexibility. If you've decided you want to sell, then you need to make sure that where's the time frame on this? It's residential listing agreement. Here it is. Okay, so it begins the 26th of May or whenever you choose, and then it's very important that you see, say, June, even June 30th. That's plenty of time to sell a home at these rates, whatever rates you agree to. But I would actually like them to say in here, oh, well, we'll get to that in a second. I'll tell a story about that. And then there's a thing called a tail in here where it says if within, and I put 0, right? You don't want them to be able to hamstring your property if they haven't gotten it under contract during their time frame. And let's say the buyer comes back 2 or 3 weeks later, you don't want them fighting over your purchase and the buyer's agent saying, well, we're going to walk away. You need to put 0. This tail, in an up market, fine. The tail, I'd go 0. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. If the realtor's putting out a lot of money, then you should work something out with them. If you've got a super high-end property and they're going to buy a print ad, that's going to be $8,000, $5,000, $10,000. Well, you should work something out, like maybe to get out of the contract, you'd have to give them the $5,000. If they're going to do $300 on internet marketing and they're really worried about that, and you're like, well, you're going to get buyers with that anyway, and they're making a big deal about it, you should find another realtor. Really. Because if they're so dumb that they're just reading their scripts and fighting with you over every point instead of being concerned about you, and that's the whole point, they're helping you sell your home. It's your asset, not theirs. So if they don't want to play ball the way you do, find someone who actually can think for themselves. And here's another thing that I find super dishonest, and this has come up multiple times. I'm a lawyer. People find real estate lawyers. They find some of my videos. They're like, this guy probably knows what he's doing, and they call me. I get calls on this quite frequently when people want out of their real estate contracts. Now, sometimes people are getting transferred, and they didn't transfer. Sometimes the home they want to buy, they can't buy, and they want out. And so then they're like, their home's on the market, and they don't want to sell it anymore, and they have realtors pressuring them to either keep it on the market or sell it. And, they said, here's the common story. John, the realtor, said they're really flexible. They've got a big practice. If I want out, I can get out at any time within 24 or 48 hours. And so that's what I did. I said, let's cancel the contract. And then they said that, well, my broker says I can't do that. And then I've called up the broker for them. And the broker says, well, in our contracts, we tell people they can cancel at any time with that realtor, but their contracts with me as the broker, I give them another broker. So if they're unhappy with that realtor, great, I will give them another broker. And I'm like, so you're going to make these people sit with this hot property on the market for 60 or 90 days? And I'm going to tell you right now, I find it unlikely that the terms will be met that they want. So you're not going to do any work, and they're not going to sell their property, so just cancel it. He goes, and then they'll go find another realtor and sell it with somebody else. And I go, well, they could. I go, so you're just going to hamstring them for, that might have been 62 days. I remember the number. And the realtor said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So my client's super ticked, said, okay, well, we'll just wait until then and we'll sell it with you, John. So that's what they had to do. So unless you're willing, and you can get out of these things if you're willing to litigate, but who wants to spend the money? Like I advise my clients, I go, we could probably win. I got some angles here. I don't think they're going to want to spend money on an attorney, but I would advise you as my clients, you don't want to spend that money either. Just wait the 60 days. Now, in an up market with no signs of cracking, that was not a problem. In this market, it might be. So in short, the most important thing I think you can do right now is make sure that you have a short, very short, You know, you want to see 2022 and 2022 there. You don't want to see it out a year. I don't even think you want to see it out more than 30 to 40 days. I prefer it says, you know, 24 hours or 48 hours. Now, I can go through, I'll do another video on all the realtors' objections. Realtors, that's the other video. Trust me, realtors, trainers are aware of this, and they have all sorts of objection fighters and statements. And here's your ultimate objection blocking maneuver. When they start giving you the objection thing, you're like, all right, I'll get another realtor. I'm sure another realtor will do it on my terms. And believe me, in a listing market where there's not a lot of listings, that should win with 99% of the realtors. And again, the exception would be if they're really putting out a lot of money up front, then you negotiate with them. So then finally, if they're going to do 48 hours, and they give you a really convincing reason, like because of the MLS, and when the MLS issue comes up, I say, well, you can put it on the MLS for a year, even though our contract only says 48 hours, and you can just write it in there. But I give you permission to put it on a year because we might renew. And then it gets carefully written in. Or they might say additional terms. You could have them say, seller can get out with 48-hour written notice to my broker. And then you want to make sure that the broker is on this, right? You want to make sure that signed by the broker before, I think. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know whether you need to have the broker sign it before, but you certainly need to make sure it's in there and get a copy of it. So anyway, there's so many things we can help you with this. We're really coming into a situation where I think there's going to be a premium on realtors who can represent you well at all times, under all questions, and have your interests in heart, not their commission. Could be a totally different market right now. So I think the main thing is that, oh look, this is I had no idea this was going to pop up. Disclosures, super important if you want to sell for top dollar in this type of market. And realtors now have, I love them. It's so much faster. My clients can type it in, boom, sign it, it's done. During it, there's some little tricky things in these seller shields, and then they offer to have a lawyer represent you. Well, why not talk to a lawyer while you're doing it? So go to winnerscheck.org. We can have a consult. I call it a strategy session. So we find out what your needs are. I give you the best strategies I can think of. I also give you plan Bs. Like for me, I don't like to close doors on what I want to do. So I like to go with my best plan. But if that's not working, I like to have a plan B and maybe even a plan C. After all, the homes are really large assets. Give us a call. Go to Winners Check if you want. Stay tuned for the next video. If this is on YouTube, you guys know what to do by now. You've seen a million videos on YouTube probably. All right, thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.